going on, everyone? So the rumor mill is already coming about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid rumors, many in the NBA feel MVP will eye 76ers trade. Knicks and Heat are waiting. Now, this is something I've talked about heavily, right? Joel Embiid, the Sixers have to do whatever it takes to keep him and make him happy. As far as we know, he hasn't asked for any type of trade request or anything like that. Although, who knows? It could happen today, tomorrow. At least at the time of recording this video, there's nothing. But who knows what conversations have gone on behind the scenes? Who knows how he's feeling right now? He just dealt with this mess with Ben Simmons and just all of that getting dragged on and the controversy and stuff, and it just completely impacted and affected the season the Sixers had. Now he's got to go and do it all over again with James Harden, right? There's no way Joel Embiid is happy and just like, yay, like it's all good. No, he's probably like, get rid of this guy, right? If he doesn't want to be here, he doesn't want to play, quit playing your games, quit being stubborn, knock it off, right? I'm trying to win. I'm not trying to be a first, second round exit. And I just feel at this point, the Philly Embiid marriage is headed for a cliff. And it's like, who's going to jump off first, right? Like, personally, I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I personally think Philly needs to just blow it up, right? You've tried the process for, 7, 8 years now, and it just hasn't seen through. You've made so many mistakes. You've had so many errors. Letting Jimmy Butler go, like I said, the Ben Simmons fiasco, now this James Harden thing. Trade James Harden for whatever you could get, for, whatever picks and assets and young talent you can get. Trade Joel Embiid. For Joel Embiid, you're probably going to get the best package you've ever, in NBA history. Talking about a top 5 player in the league right now, and just an absolute game changer for many teams in this league. And you're going to keep him around, and then he's going to demand a trade at some point, and now you lose most of your leverage. If it was me, I'm sitting Joel Embiid down. I'm saying, hey, buddy, where are you at? What is your space? Do you want to be here? Do you want to stay here, or are you kind of on the fence? And if there's any indication of him not being willing to ride this out and see what they can do, I would just say, hey, look, give us a list of the teams that you want to go to, and we'll quietly shop you. Don't demand a trade, nothing like that. Keep it hush-hush. We'll go and kind of gauge what we can get in return for you from the list that you provided. And then if we can find a package that makes sense, we'll trade you. That's what I would do. I would sit him down and, say, hey, look, we can trade James Harden and we can ride this out and see what happens, right? Those are the two options right now. Either A, we ride it out and maybe James Harden collapses and you go and push for an NBA championship. Here's the problem. James Harden has quit on the Houston Rockets, and he has quit on the Brooklyn Nets, and very likely he's going to quit here on Philly, right? The NBA is already investigating the Sixers based on what James Harden said. We've gotten countless reports that this is only the beginning, that James Harden is going to do whatever he can to make this as uncomfortable as possible. And James Harden is not reporting to camp, even though the Sixers can block and veto him potentially entering free agency next season, all of that, right? This is an absolute headache. We can try to go through this storm and see what happens, and maybe James Harden comes around, or maybe he just doesn't want to look bad for free agency next year, so he goes and he plays, and maybe we have a real shot. It's us, the Bucks, and the Celtics. Or the second option is we trade James Harden to the Clippers or something like that. We get a bunch of picks or whatever we can get, and then a bunch of expiring contracts. And then next season, it would basically just be you and Tyrese Maxey. We could unload PJ Tucker. If we do that, then it's just you and Maxey. And we have basically enough cap space to go get another star and even another rotation guy, like a quality starting level guy, right? So we can get you a sidekick or, somebody that you can compete with, and even maybe another mid-tier guy or a quality piece, right? And now we can kind of retool around you. Where are you at? And if there is even the slight indication that he's like, hey, you know what? I'm done. Or I don't really want to go through a mini rebuild or something like that. I'm trading the guy, right? Because James Harden is proven who he is. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When somebody shows you who they are, you believe them. He has shown you who he is 3 times now. Literally 3 separate times. Did it with Houston and completely quit. It was so bad they asked if he was wearing a fat suit. That's ridiculous, right? That was actually a real, like, reporting thing, right? This wasn't like, some crazy, source. No, this was like everybody was like, is he wearing, like, what? There's no way he's this out of shape. Kevin McHale talked about how in 2015, he said that James Harden showed up heavy to training camp because he wanted McHale gone, and that was kind of his way of doing so. There's 2 times, and then he goes to the Brooklyn Nets. He doesn't like Kyrie Irving, and then he forces his way out and doesn't even play, and it's just an absolute mess, right? He's on the court, but he's not playing. And what's going to happen is Philly is going to play hardball with him, and he's going to continue to show you who he is, and he's going to do what he did with Houston, which is, he's going to go on the court so he gets his paycheck, but he's not going to play. He's going to make, careless passes. He's going to turn the ball over like crazy. He's not going to try on the offensive end. He's definitely not going to try on the defensive end. And he's just going to basically be a guy that is just out there, right? And the issue is he knows that somebody will give him a contract. Somebody will sign him next year. Now, it might not be for a max, right? But he's going to be at the end of his max contract. And he's probably not getting a max with Philly anyway based on, the information that's been put out there, right? So the thing is he knows, like, hey, I'll probably still get, even if I, like, just completely coast this season and become completely unplayable, I'll probably still get $20 million a year from somebody. Because he probably will, right? And it's just, that's kind of where the leverage lies for him. He knows that he's good enough that there's going to be a team or there's going to be an organization that he can just go to and he's going to get paid. Or he could force his way to, the Clippers or something like that, right? Because the Clippers have a bunch of expiring contracts. And even Paul George, I think, has like a player option or something like that next year. Or if they don't extend him, I think he's a free agent, one of the two. But, James Harden will have options next season. But at the same breath, who knows, right? James Harden bet on himself this offseason with Houston, and Houston said, nah, we're good. And decided to go get Fred VanVleet instead of getting James Harden. And, they were more willing to take Dylan Brooks than going and acquiring James Harden. So, that tells you something right then and there. But it's just, this is becoming a dumpster fire. And in my opinion, you either need to blow the whole thing up or you need to unload James Harden for scraps, right? At least look at it like this. If you don't get Terrence Mann, which there was a report that came out that says Philly isn't Terrence Mann isn't a deal breaker, but they want picks. That's what they want for James Harden. They want picks, right? Very likely to try to go and leverage and go get something else, right? Or if they do decide to rebuild, at least they have some picks, right? So makes sense that they would want picks. But based on the report, Terrence Mann isn't the deal breaker. So go get whatever picks you can get from the Clippers. Go get whatever young guys you can get from the Clippers. And then get whatever expiring contracts you can get from the Clippers. And go do the deal. At least you'll get guys. Like if you get Nicholas Batum and, whoever, right? And Robert Covington, at least those 2 guys will play, right? At least that's 2 guys that can play in the starting unit if you need to. They're 2 guys that'll show up and give you 110%. That is a good way to kind of keep Joel Embiid happy, right? Because trying to play hardball with James Harden and him just sabotaging and blowing this whole thing up, it's not a good approach. You need to keep Joel Embiid happy or you're going to end up losing him too, right? So where is it? Now look, maybe the Sixers are looking at it as like, well, we have Joel Embiid under contract for the next few years, but you do not want a public, I want out, trade me. That's just, that's not good for Philly at all, right? So do the right thing, unload James Harden, move on, be done, keep Joel Embiid happy. You have a couple years, get him to buy in and tell him you're going to go in this new direction, give him the old car salesman speech, and then call it a day. Like, that's all you got to do, right? Because it's just Daryl Morey, it's his stubbornness. He's a guy that wants to stick it to you if he feels like he's being, and it's just, for what? Sometimes you have to cut your losses. Sometimes you got to just move on, right? And you're in a position to where even if you don't win this year, which you probably wouldn't win anyway, even with James Harden. We just saw this last year, right? So, but anyway, regardless, you're probably not winning this year regardless. But at least next year, you have a ton of cap space. You have like the 3rd most cap space in the league next year. And it's not like this super stacked free agency, but there are a couple really good quality pieces that maybe you can convince to come play with Joel Embiid. But I just continue to default on the idea of like, just trade Embiid, right? Like it hasn't worked. The process, how much longer are you going to wait with the whole process thing? And, how many mistakes you're going to make? You got a nice young player in Maxey. Go trade Joel Embiid. You will get an absolute haul for. Go get all the young talent from the Knicks and a bunch of draft picks, right? Go get Grimes and Barrett and all that stuff. Like, go get all of the young talent and get draft picks, build around Tyrese Maxey, trade James Harden to the Clippers for whatever other young talent you can get and whatever draft picks you can get. And then there you go. Start the rebuild, because I don't know. But those are my thoughts and opinions, and as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Do you think it's a matter of time for Joel asked out? Do you think, no, he'll stick it out, he's a trooper? How do you feel? Let me know.